Thank you. That was quite an introduction. Whenever someone says the word entrepreneur these days, one thing pops up in my head, and it's a study made by some colleagues of mine in the UK. You know, this thing with entrepreneurs has become so fashionable. 15, 20 years ago, it was, entrepreneurs was kind of weird guys working in a garage somewhere. Silicon Valley was on the agenda, but entrepreneurs was not that much on the political agenda. These days, wherever you go, Japan, the US, Italy, Spain, everybody says we need more of them. There are a lot of studies on entrepreneurs these days. Some of them are good, most of them are bad. This one is a little bit odd. It's British, and they used a somewhat different method because they decided to study self-made millionaires. You know, no lotto, no tipping, no old money, just the self-made millionaires. And you can probably also understand the idea that once you get those guys, you will start to scrutinize them. Men, women, immigrants, education, background, who are they? There was nothing there. There was nothing there. Only one thing they found. Almost half, 44% of those people were either dyslexic or autistic or both. So keep that in mind. You know, having spent a long time at the Stockholm School of Economics where you need top grades to get in, you know, you start to reflect a little bit on a couple of things. Now, 2019, 10 years from now, it will be a little bit warmer, most probably. Barack Obama will look a little bit, well, he will still look young, probably. He will stand center stage of politics, and we can look back, I think, and understand a couple of things. This crisis, the 2008-2009 crisis, put an end to a couple of things. It was not capitalism, really, that had a crisis, 2008-2009. Capitalism is not an ideology. And I think more people understand that today than ever. Capitalism is not an ideology, it's just a machinery. It's a very sophisticated machinery that only can do one thing. It can sort the efficient from the inefficient. And you can feed anything into this machine, restaurants, hamburger joints, hotels, car manufacturers, anything you can feed into this machine, and the machine will create two piles. Efficient, Toyota, inefficient, General Motors. You also know the rest of the story. The efficient ones will be rewarded. You know, cigars, champagne, what have you. Inefficient ones, no cigars, no champagne, Saab. Yeah, you know the rest of the story there too. All right, this is capitalism. It's just a machinery that can do this job for us. And we can't look upon it as some kind of ideology or a paradigm or something like that. Now, the crisis 2008-2009, when you look back at it, we will then understand that it was an ethical crisis. It was a crisis for globalization and politics. And it was an end for an absolute end for the industrial paradigm. I will say a few words about this. Ethical crisis. Why? Because capitalism and geography has been growing together, always. Companies were born somewhere. Entrepreneurs lived somewhere, and they were a part of the local community, right? Makes sense. Capitalists have always paid back a little bit to the local community, donations, charity, parks, schools, what have you. After the Second World War, we started to break that link. We broke the link between geography and capitalism. And when there is no link between geography and capitalism, there are no checks and balances in the system. You don't have to meet the people of the community when you go to church on Sunday. You don't have to answer to any local people why your bonus is so high. You don't have to report to anyone. When you break the link, geography and capitalism, things start to happen. Number two, This was an ethical crisis, a crisis for globalization. Yes, the 2008-2009 crisis underlined that capitalism, or the market economy, is now so much bigger than any political unit we have on planet Earth. Not even the United States, China, the European community, no one could control it alone. Collaboration was necessary. That was clear. 20 countries had to sit down together to sort out the situation. A full stop to the industrial paradigm? Yes. 1844, Spinning Jenny in the UK. You remember from your school books probably. It started, industrialization, the thing that made us rich. It was not oil that made us rich. It was not gas that made us rich. It was industrialization and science, together with a little bit of work ethics. Now, one critical underlying assumption of industrialization, there were several, but one critical underlying assumption was unlimited resources in a number of critical dimensions. Unlimited resources. Air, water, silence, space, etc. Unlimited resources. I think we all now understand that there is no such thing in any dimension as unlimited resources, and it requires a completely different logic for the industrial project. And that is probably one of the reasons why we see the decline of the mega corporation. Never in the last 60 years has big corporations accounted for as little of the world production as they do today, and by 2019 even less, probably less than 5% of the world GDP. The world will be, and will continue to be, for the foreseeable future, populated by what we call mini and midget multinationals. Now, what is mini and midget multinationals? It's small multinational firms, 20, 30, 50, 80, 200 employees, but still with operations in maybe 15, 20, 25 countries. You do what you do it well, and you do it around the world. That is the mini or the midget multinational. Now, when you look back, you can on the one hand see the crisis much clearer. You can also see clearly 10 years from now what happened, that the universities were taken over by women. It was in the making already 2009. By 2019, probably 2/3 of the students will be women, all around Europe, in Morocco, as well as in the Middle East. It was clear already 2009 that this was in the making. With the few exceptions of the hardcore, and my God, really hardcore engineering, it is women, as you know, everywhere. Meteorology, law, economics, business, anything. By 2019, we will probably do a lot of research on what the men are doing, because we still don't really understand where they are and what they are doing. This, ladies and gentlemen, will have a lot of implications. When women move in big time, we know a few things about men and women and the differences, and one of the things is that they differ when they relate to risk, and in a very significant way. What does that mean? It means that I'm not sure that Lehman Sisters would have run their company in the same way as Lehman Brothers, if you see what I mean. That they would have taken the same risks, used the same financial instruments, etc. It is quite clear by 2019 that we have moved completely out of the family. We started to do that already in the 60s, and by 2019 we are completely moving into this, living alone. As of 2009, we had about 60% of the households in Stockholm single. By 2019, we will have 70 to 75% single households here in Stockholm and in major urban areas around the world, because this is not Scandinavia. This is Chicago, this is Istanbul, this is Athens, this is Italy, this is all other cities and urban areas around the world. Remarkably enough, we see increasing birth rates at the same time as the propensity to form a family go down. We live in cities more than ever. By 2019, it is